Greetings, viewers and friends. Thank you for joining me again. I'm Aiden from Sapphire Life. As we recognize May as Child's Month and other indicators, I believe that our children need parents, guardians, caregivers within the homes and communities to care for, guide them, mentor them, lead them, and groom them to become individuals of truth, character, integrity, and success. As we have seen over the years, months, and weeks, our children, youth, and young people are becoming and have become statistics of our society and have become vulnerable and have been abused, neglected, mistreated by our community and more so by those who should genuinely love and care for them. Therefore, my guests, Mark and Tracy, are joining me today as Mark, a caring uncle, corporate leader, and an astute businessman. He is a one of our leading Florida beverages distribution executives, and Tracy, a loving mother and caring, nurturing parent of a now first year student. I must say, first year university student. She's an avid and astute entrepreneur who makes delicious and mouth-watering pastries and cakes. With her dedicated business mentor and friend, Tracy now serves in middle management at one of Florida's manufacturing and distribution. Welcome, Tracy and Mark. Thank you for joining me today in our session where we will be looking into the message of parents and communities do not fail our children. Thank you. Okay, so we'll just dive right into it. And as we recognize May as Child's Month, here at Sapphire Life, we promote life, positivity, and happiness. And we have programs that gears towards our children. So this month we'll be looking at issues surrounding our children. And I will start with whomever first to introduce themselves to the audience. You can share a little bit about yourself that I've shared. If you want to add anything to that, Tracy Arma.
Appreciate it. Well, my name is Tracy. I was born and raised in New York, by far Brooklyn. Came down to Orlando, well, I say Popka, Florida, roughly a couple years now. And ever since I've been here, you can say this is my home. And I have one son who's 19, who's attending University of I'm sorry, who's attending Florida Memorial down in Miami. And he's studying to be an engineer. And yes, that's a little bit about me.
Thank you, Tracy. Mark.
Uh, My name is Mark Barnes, born and raised in Washington, D.C. Moved to Florida in 1999. Just my uncle brought me down here for a fresh start, a new point of view on life, and been here ever since.
Nice, nice, nice. Thank you. So, who wants to be the first one? What are your views on a village raising a child?
Um, I strongly agree with it. I mean, I caught more tail whippings from my neighbors than I did my own parents growing up. I mean, we had before there was surveillance cameras, we had neighbors. I know I got caught on Alabama Avenue, and Miss Burner walked me all the way home by my ears while kicking me at the same time. Back then, that was just a way of affection, just to show you, you was pretty much out of line. So that's what the village, how it works, you know.
But do you think that is something that is missing in our society today? Something like that? And do you you mentioned, Mark, that it was that basically the care for that lady who pulled you from down the road to home. But do you think that we need more of that or continue to do that in the society today that we're living in?
I would say we do. Because like as of now, if you look at it, you got teachers fighting the students. Sorry. I mean, you have students fighting the teacher. I mean, back in the days when I was coming up, my teacher used to whoop me. I couldn't do nothing about it. But nowadays, you got kids that's out of line cussing the teachers out. I mean, that's not cool. Too. Sometimes you got, but at the end of the day, you got to look at it too. If you got young kids having babies, how can they sit here and raise their kids?
Yes, yes.
So at the end of the day, they're still kids themselves.
So, so,
So
so do you think that's one of the problems that we're having
of
where
course,
our parents and our communities are failing the generation for today?
of course, because now you got your kids want to be, or they think they're your parents. I mean, that's not how I was raised. My mom said something else, but that's what she meant. Nothing after that. If I did it when I got out of line, I got my butt whooped.
Okay, I think Mark, you want to chime in on that part?
Well, I really wanted to just continue with where she left.
Hmm.
I think the discipline, right now, discipline is categorized as child abuse. It's like it's people are so sensitive to the I guess the culture that raised us and got us through tough times and kept our kids on track. Now parents getting arrested for that. There were a time when you miss a couple days of school and the truancy officer used to come hunt me down. And if we didn't go to school, our parents had to go show up at court. Now they just don't give a damn. Like, so it's like it's so people just afraid to open their mouth now because they're afraid of getting canceled or afraid of having what social workers show up if they home if they on public assistance. So right now everyone is just walking on rice paper.
And that is such a good point because even though many people today they don't um believe in Bible or religion, but Proverbs 2 verse 6 says, train up a child in the way he should go. So when they get old, they will not depart. Have you used such an approach on your son or your nephew or your younger brother's man that you took care of? Have you used such an approach? And what are some of the meaningful ways that you have done that?
As you just said, the Bible said, train up a child in the way they should go. Yes, every Sunday we was in church, Sunday school,
So church attendance is
church.
critical.
Correct, it is.
Yes,
Because
yes.
if you don't go, you don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, they get everything from the streets, and then the
Mm,
streets start raising your child. So I mean, you have to train up a child in the way they should go. If not, they'll depart ways from that.
hmm. So I guess that's where we're becoming to fail our children
Hmm.
because if we're not doing that, right? Okay, that's good. What do you believe is the cause of how children behave and carry themselves these days, Mark?
I believe it's just well, I'll give you an example. I always call myself a crash test dummy. I'm the oldest. I don't have an older brother. So everything that I've done in life, it was self-taught. So I say I made some good mistakes and I've made bad mistakes. Right?
Okay.
I learned from them. Now we don't have anyone teaching the kids the mistakes what a correct way to correct the mistakes that they made. No
True.
one is passing that knowledge back. It's
Yes.
every man for himself right now.
Mm. So that's where we have the separation and we're seeing a failure. So would you say that based on what you mentioned, Mark, is one of the cause for absentee fathers? And furthermore, how would you suggest that fathers play and regain their roles in the homes?
I just don't think it's absentee fathers. It's just the culture, right? Right now, you have parents that want to be friends with their kids instead of being parents. So I learned when I was raising my brother, the hardest part that I had to get through to him is I had to tell him I have to differentiate between being your brother and being your parent. And now I've had him so long, I look at him like my child.
Mm.
I don't even look at him as a brother. I mean, I let him make mistakes like I would let a child make mistakes. I don't. If I treated him like a brother, some of the stuff he's done, he'd probably be back in Washington D.C. right now. But he's my child. Same with Makai. So I figured all the mistakes that I've made, all the fires that I've touched, taught them the proper way to do it. I've gave them the foresight that I didn't have.
And I think that's one of the things that we're missing because a lot of people today and how these kids carry themselves or behave, they don't have that compassionate and caring person to say, hey, I've made these mistakes. I don't want you to make it. Or you bring them to the point to say, you know what? I'm gonna teach you a lesson by bringing you to this point where you can now learn your lesson. So that's good. So considering the odds, Tracy, tell me, considering the odds where you look at sex, crime, violence, peer pressure, drugs, pornography, all of these things that our kids are exposed to. Um, Against our children, in what way do you believe the qualities of compassion and care and a nurturing home can impact a child or a teenager's lives?
I mean, you have to have compassion because at the end of the day, children need love. Sometimes when the kids act out because they're missing that love either from their parent or from whoever.
I'm going to stop you right there, but what would you say? What would you say when that child look at you and say, "Mom, I hate you. Mom, I don't like you," or "Dad, I hate you," or "Dad, I don't like you"?
I'll ask them why. Why you feel that way? What make you feel that way? Every time you ask me for something, I make sure you get it. What's the problem? What's going on? What is it that you need from me? Tell me what it is that I can change to make it better for you.
That is true because that I saw a video earlier that a son would attack his mom, and this is somebody who provide roof and shelter and clothing and everything and food, but yet still you would say this to your mom. But when at what point do we tell them that, hey, don't do this, wrong is wrong, right is right? At what point do we say that to them?
I mean, every time they make mistakes, we
Mm,
have to let them know because if we don't correct them, they're gonna think it's okay to continue to do it, and it's not. Because if they continue to do it, they're gonna find themselves in jail or they're gonna find themselves dead somewhere. So at the end of the day, if they make a mistake, we have to let them know they made a mistake,
mhm,
and they have to correct their actions before
mhm.
leading them somewhere else they don't want to be.
And just to go back to something that Mark said earlier, how is it that what are some of the approaches that you had used with your relationship with growing your brother, your nephew, and also for you, Tracy? What approaches have you guys used to create that bond where you don't hear, oh, I hate you, or I don't like you, or I
Love,
wish you weren't my mom or my dad?
love.
In what ways?
I mean, I tell him every morning, I love you. We hug each other before he went to school. I gave him a hug. He always talked to me about anything that he was facing or he seen coming. He came and talked to me. I said, anytime you want to talk, my door is always open. You can come talk. So never hold anything from me. If you
Hmm.
have questions, come talk to me. We can work through it no matter what it is.
So I guess that's where when exact that's so good because that's one of the things that we're lacking today, communication. And when you go home, I heard on a radio station recently that when you go to the dinner table, put away the phones. So that is how our kids communicate these days with their phone. That's their communication. But how do we get around that? How do we get around that part where their communication is their phone?
I mean, nowadays that's all they see is their phones. But hey, cut the services off.
We go about showing them that love, right? So how do you get around like the cell phone issue or the technology issue that is actually the life of some of these young people? Mark?
It's almost like you have to get on a level. You know, if you want to communicate with your kids, you can't always expect your kids to communicate with you, right?
Mm,
So you have to reciprocate that energy. So, for instance, I'm 43, but I mean, when I'm taking my nephew to practice, he asks, "Hey, can I listen to some music?" I give him full autonomy of the radio. Now I listen to NBA YoungBoy. So it's like there was rappers that I would not even think about looking at, but now I actually like these guys. They're very witty. Like they smart. When you listen to their music, you realize like these kids are very intelligent. It's just that I was looking at them like, "Old man, get off my lawn" mentality, and that's the disconnect between us and the generation behind us. Like we just want them to get the hell off our lawn.
so it brings me to something I remember now. In corporate, we talk about, well, corporate and leadership, we talk about agility. Leaders become managers becoming agile and leaders becoming agile to look at COVID. So would you say that the generation then needs to be more agile in relation to the generation now?
How can they if we don't teach?
Mm.
The gap is right there. The root cause is the disconnect between us and them. So if we sit back and we on our high horse and we gonna hold on to our pride and expect our kids to get on our level, we're gonna lose. So if we don't put one foot forward and get on their level and figure out how to make it work, because it's a relationship, it's an
Mhm.
investment.
Yes. That is
If you
very
want to make that investment grow, you have to nurture it.
true.
You
Mhm.
can't sit back and expect, hey, it's my house, my rules. That doesn't fly anymore.
And that's where the love, we have to show them that love, right? We have to do that for them. Do you think that our society is lacking that compassion? And why do you think that? Towards our children, do you think that they're lacking that towards our children and why?
I think they're lacking compassion. I think they're too easy on them. For number one, because if a child does something, they'll be quick to let them go. But then they turn around when they shoot or kill somebody, then they want to hold them. Okay, but did you go ahead and give them the things they need so they can work through all of the stress that they're going through or anything they're going through? No, you didn't do it.
Mm.
So I mean,
Well, to be honest, as you mentioned that Tracy, my mind run back to those three boys in Marion County that that's actually charged for murder, and these are no older than 17, 12, 16, and 17-year old. Have you heard the news? Well, let's use Mark since you have a nephew, and then I'll get to Tracy later on since she has a son. What are your thoughts on that? And do you think that w- what role do you think parenting play in such a situation?
I don't want to comment on that event
Okay.
because I'm not closely tied to it. But I will tell you the conversations that I had with my nephew and my brother
Mm.
when we're alone and we're riding. Tell them if we're getting pulled over, keep my insurance information up top. Okay. I don't want to reach in my glove compartment
Mhm.
because all of us are, most of us have concealed weapons. And even though they're there, I don't want to make anyone feel like they're uncomfortable or give them a reason. So you have to know how to act. That's one. Roll down the windows. That way, when the police approach, they can see clear through. Even if they're wrong, have your day in court. We can afford a lawyer. You don't have to sit there and argue with them. We can pay someone to do that for us. That's one. Two, if you're in a store, keep your hands in invisible sight. Don't be bunched up. Eye contact. So this is etiquette. The same way that you teach a young lady to walk with a book on her head when she's that small, you have to teach these young black men how to be approached by the
But
police.
are parents and society teaching that when all these kids see on the TV is the rappers and the pants below the waist and the guns and drugs and sex? Do you think that is something that is we're teaching them to do what you're telling us now?
I guarantee you those rappers are teaching their kids. So if I can't speak for every parent,
Mhm.
what I could tell you is it should. And I not only tell my brother if I have one of my nephews, one of his friends is with us, I speak out loud so they all can hear like how to act. The village, it takes a village. I just don't want that information to be just known by my nephew. I want his friends to know maybe they can spread the news. Like, hey, if it happens to me, like, be calm. If the police is out of line, okay. Or if you somewhere like restraint. I teach restraint. Always have restraint.
Nice, nice. So when you look back at your past and others, do you think that we have done justice to our children, that they would become better than you, allowing them to find their purpose and meaning? If so, and why? Because I know Mark mentioned about his brothers as being the older one. So what when you look back at your past, considering your past, um, excuse me, do you think you have done justice to your nephew, to your son, that they would become better than you, allowing them to find their purpose and their meaning?
Yes, because at the end of the day, like I tell Jordan, this is your life. You have to live it. What I did in my life, that's what I did. I chose to do that. So therefore, whatever you want to succeed in life, you have to make your own decisions. Yes, I was there to show you and guide you so you can make the right decisions in life. But at the end of the day, it's up to you. Do what you want to do. Yes, yes. So at the end of the day, you can't say, "Oh, I did this. Oh, I told you you had to do this." No, it's what you want to do.
Because one of the things I heard recently is that a lot of parents, we a lot of parents, we are grooming our children to live our dream and live our reality, when in fact we have lost the opportunity to live our dream and an opportunity. So how would you tell parents that, hey, allow them to live theirs? How would you tell them?
Like once you start having children, your dreams are over. I mean, you can still accomplish your dreams. I'm not saying it's over, but you can still do what you want to do. But now your child has to live his own life. He has a life that he has to live. You can't live your life to your child. Yeah, yeah,
Nice. So have you both of you, Mark or Tracy, have you activated your compassion towards your child and other children that are around you? And how would you suggest other parents and caregivers do that? So you mentioned about loving them. How can we activate that love and compassion?
Well, I'll give you an example. My brother Antoine, he's he's pretty much like it was like when I raising him was like raising myself. So it's like my mom used to always tell me, because it was like staring at myself in the mirror. So when I came to raising Kai, my mom told me like, "Hey, listen, you getting a good one here, man. You getting one." But my only parenting knowledge was raising Antoine. So I mean, I was on Kyle hard, like in the beginning, man. He lead a like, I mean, I was on him because I was treating him the only way I knew how was Antoine. And then one day Antoine was like, you know, you ain't gotta treat him like he ain't me, trust me. He ain't gonna do none of the stuff I did. Like, that's a different time. But and once he told me that, I took a step back and I treated him the way he treated me. Like I reciprocated that energy and he came out his shell. Because at one time he didn't even like you see him, he's like this huge kid, man. It's just a ball of joy. But like until I got that information from Antoine, that compassion, like and I had to change. And he
So,
changed with it.
so it's like different strokes for different folks, because
Exactly.
I'm,
Exactly.
I'm sure when we look at it, you're like, okay, this approach works for Anthony, but this approach works for Kai.
Well, I had to basically utilize the same formula you utilize in when you're in management. You know, you we're managing personalities. You cannot treat everyone the same. You know, everyone has different tastes. So now I know what makes him tick. That's my guy. You know, I he does none of the stuff Antoine does or did. They two different people, and I love them both for that. You know, because raising them both will help me become a better parent when the time.
So having a structure, a good structure, you don't need to have that. Yes, you need to have that mother and father, but you need, in addition to that, you need a structure where you have caring uncle, caring aunts, caring grandmas, caring folks in the neighborhood that would draw you from down the road up to your home and give you a discipline while they're doing that, right? You think, but have you seen that in recent time? Have you seen that happening still, Tracy?
No, I have not. To be honest,
Do you think we need to bring it back
we should.
and not look at it as
We
as
should.
what Mark said earlier? Was it child abuse?
Yes.
I mean, they were saying child, but I mean, it's really not child abuse. Just training a child.
Yeah.
Because at times kids do get out of hand. They are out of control. So what better way to get that child in order about what it asks for?
Well, I'm sure there are some kids or some people will say they don't. they don't use the belt or they don't do the whooping.
Yeah, they stay fast
But
sometimes.
but then life and death is in the power of the tongue, and the tongue is very powerful. And I know some people will talk about the looks. I just need to give them the look. I just need to say one thing.
I'm not gonna lie, them looks got me. My mother gave me the look. That's all she had to do was give me that look, and I knew when to get in my place. That was it. She ain't had to say much. She ain't had to feed me. She just gave me that look. Came around that corner and look. I knew, okay, I got in my lane.
What about you, Mark? Did you have those looks?
Yeah, we call it the bonds list. Trust me, Antoine, yo, it's passed down. It's a look my uncles used to give me coming up. Yeah, it's passed down. You know, it's a scowl.
So I think one of the issues that we're having with the generation parents today is that they're lacking that stern look, because I'm sure that's a stern look.
Yeah.
They have more. Would you say they have more of a friendly look these days?
I'm gonna say they're not holding their kids accountable. It's more accountability. Yeah, exactly. It's just like you know, you would rather know that your kids got out of a situation rather than knowing that your kid was held accountable for something that they did, right? Everyone wants the finesse. So it's the accountability what we're missing right
But how can we hold them accountable? How can we teach them accountability?
now. At this point, you got to look at the grandparents because it's like the grandparents need to teach the parents so the parents can teach the kids.
But then some. But I know in some situation the parents become so defensive when you try to correct their children. How would you address something like that? How would you tell these parents? How would you address something like that?
There's nothing wrong with agreeing to disagree, right? You know, a lot of inner city kids, like for instance, a lot of kids in the inner city need therapy. You know, they're afraid to seek help, right? There's a lot of kids that have been traumatized. Even the kids' parents have been traumatized. And they don't even know how to connect with the kids because they don't know emotionally what the hell's going on themselves, right? That's why I say sometimes you got to go back to the grandparents to find out like what's going on. Like, really, there's a disconnect. Like, it could be the grandparents' fault. The grandmother not knowing that her daughter had ADHD. Her daughter passed that symptom to her kid. Her kid is out here wild, and she don't know what's going on because she don't know she has it because her grandmother, her mom didn't tell her. So now it done passed through 3 generations.
And you said something which is very critical, man, because May is not only celebrated as Child's Month, but May is celebrated as Mental Health Month, Mental Health Awareness Month. And you said something which is so critical, because my sister recently, she works with cases of trauma kids and autistic kids and all of that. And she said a lot of us are traumatized and we don't know. We don't know that we're traumatized. But how would you, and you did say, mention that they're afraid to talk, to talk. But how can we as adults, or how would you suggest that we as adults lay that foundation or have the door open for them to come and say, hey, I need or I am? How would you leave? Yes, we love them. We tell them, we show them. What else do you think we need to do as parents and the community? Because first they have to acknowledge that they need that help. They are traumatized. First of all, they need to acknowledge it. Because that's one of the things that Mark that that's happening. Not only that they're afraid, is that they have not acknowledged it and they don't know. They
So,
don't know.
so it kind of be hard because most of them don't know. They won't think they actually need help.
Mm,
They think they are fine when they're not, but they don't know
yeah,
unless they go to the doctor and seek help.
yeah. Yeah. And with mental health, a lot of the trauma leads to cases where, yes, they have the ADHD, but there are other underlying issues that they are experiencing. And that's when we see them going into their isolation, their stage of comfortness, where the communication to them is their cell phone and the internet. They just don't see adults as someone that they can approach. But how can we make ourselves available to them?
We just have to ask them, just question them, sit there and talk to them, just so we can go ahead and get inside their brain and figure out what's going on with them. It's that, like I said, communication. Because sometimes you come home from work, you go take a shower, you don't even say good morning and good afternoon to your child. He's in there playing the game. I mean, you don't know what's going on. You have to have that line of communication so they can open up to you, so they can tell them, so they can tell you what's going on.
Yeah. And socialization has a lot to do with it. And considering this cruel world, considering this cruel world that we're living in, because man, this world is becoming to that part now. Um, what approaches or what initiative have you taken, or would you suggest that we can take towards, in an effect, to compassion towards our children, which can alleviate the aggression and the hostility in the homes? So when they start to act up and say they don't like you, or they're like, can I play my music? And you're like, how would you?
I mean, it's kind of hard because I only, like I said, I only have one son, and I have not had to face those or go through those issues. So I wouldn't know where to start or where to begin. Because at the end of the day, Jordan knew if I said something, I meant it. If I have to say it more than once, it's a problem.
And,
So he knew from the start.
and you have the support of parents,
Correct.
and he has the support of grandparents,
Correct.
right? So think that's one of the things that we very much need more so, because I know Mark played wear many hats and play many roles, and I'm sure that if we have those roles and those hats being worn today, then it wouldn't really be a cruel one, because then we'll have caring people say, "Boy, you do this, girl, you do this. Let's go home." Because I know well where I'm from, and as looking back to what Mark said earlier, where I'm from, um, you would go home and tell your parent. You wouldn't even go home and tell your parent if you got flogging at school, because if you do that, you're going to get another one. So the village and the teachers and everybody is pretty much important. As we wind down, in what ways do you think compassion is vital in homes and communities?
Passion starts with communication. Um, I know as time went on, I, I noticed my parenting changed towards Makai from that of Antoine to actually building one with Makai. It went from him being like emotionally shut off to me, like he'd come home from practice and shut the door. Now door open. I talk to him every day. I see him before school, have a great day. When he come home, how was your day? If I get a message, one of the from the school saying the school's on lockdown, I'm texting him. I like to know how his days. Like he keeps me young, like energized. Like so for him, not only am I getting on his level, I'm staying in tune on what's going on around me on his level because there's new drugs coming out. There's stuff going on, man. Like you want to stay in tune. You can't be on your high horse and think, marijuana is still reefer. It's not. You know, it's gas. And that's so I know that because I hear it in raps.
As what's interesting, you see, you're right, because you say something which is very critical to Mark, because we weren't exposed to some of the things that our kids are exposed to today. How do we have that conversation with them when they go out there and they hear about these drugs and these things? How what are your thoughts with that?
You tell them the hey, like for instance, I cut Makai's hair. So I say, hey, are you good on condoms? He said, I need some more. I said, okay. I'd rather him have it and not need it than need it and not have it. That confirms that he's sexually active.
Mhm.
To him, it confirms that I care about his well being.
And that's the thing. That's it. So important. Care. care.
That's it. I didn't uh uh come down on them, want to know how many times, who, when, what, when, why. Only thing I'm focused on is his health and well-being.
Because that's one way how we alleviate the aggression and the hostility from our children. Because in their eyes now we become their enemies when we become so aggressive and hostile towards them, because when they vent out at us and we start to vent at them, then it's just going to create that havoc.
Hmm.
So that's one way when we show care and all of that. So that's very good. All right, so both of you now have the floor. So as we wrap up, the message for parents and communities is: do not fail our children. What do you think about this statement? And what are your final words to our listeners and viewers about not failing our children? And it doesn't have to be your child, but the children around us.
Just love your children. Listen to them.
Listen to your
When they
children.
when they're coming to you, they come and see you with a problem or issue, or they just want to come and talk. Just be that open ear. Don't never shut them down, because once you shut them down, ain't no telling where else they're gonna go and get that ear from. So just talk to your kids. Listen to them.
Mark.
Um, just to continue, listen, understand. There's nothing wrong with agreeing to disagree, right? Because it's happening. Sex is happening. Drugs is happening. I mean, medical marijuana cards now. You can't assume. If you want to know, ask. But don't ask with intent to judge. You ask with intent to help. Okay. So don't always go into the room, with your mind already made up. Because I've done that so many times with Antoine and Makai, and I don't do it anymore. And there's so much energy flowing in the house now because I learned to get out of my own way. And I don't know everything. I make good mistakes, I make bad mistakes, but I'm not afraid to make
And that's a good point, because in coaching and as a life coach and a mentor, we have to go into the situation or the relationship with an open mind. It's a non-judgmental zone. So that's a very, very crucial thing to do as parents. So I do thank you very much, Mark and Tracy. Thank you very much. I am sure that our listeners and our viewers have learned some things, and I'm sure that they will take some of the lessons learned and include it in our interactions with our children and our youth in the community. And one of the thing is, I know one of my professors would say in school that servant leadership is not for the coward. It's not for the weak or faint-hearted. So is, and I will just relate that to parenting and even caregivers. It's not for the coward or the weak-hearted. It is for the strong hearted. And if you feel like you can't do it, there are other people who you, as our guest says, ask, seek, find out, because you cannot do it alone. Nobody can do it alone. And that's why we have the community and the village to help raise our children. So thank you again, Mark. Thank you again, Tracy.